Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ask the Theologian today. I'm glad you are here for biblical, theological, and worldview questions. Sorry we were a minute or so late there, a couple minutes late. We had a little technical issue, but we are back live and ready to go. Hey, yesterday, too, we had a little internet outage, very short, right during the program. So YouTube dropped, Worshipify kept going, and we've got the the full YouTube broadcast from Monday, the 17th of February 2005, which is going up now, should be there just momentarily. If you missed that, delighted to have all of you here today. We're limping along a little bit, got a computer out, as you know, and if you were here with us yesterday. And we thank you, Gary and DeBerry, for a new computer. Took care of it yesterday. It's ordered. It's on the way. So we'll get up there. But anyway, Nathan got a little patch for me so I can see some of this on the computer there. If you have a question, put in the word question first, and or you can always go to asktheologian.com and use the Ask a Question button up in the upper right-hand corner, and we will get it even during this program. And I think that we might even get to your. I think I've got 4 questions here waiting to go. We'll see how long those go. Sometimes I do 4 questions. Sometimes I do, 12 questions. What's my average? Let's don't figure it. Yeah. Anyway, glad you're here today for a full week of broadcasting. Always good to see you. Let's just get started. How does that? We want to be biblical. We want to be entertaining. We want to be rightly dividing the word of truth. And maybe a little bit of snarky or sarcasm coming in as we go through it. Let's just see here. But we begin today with Josie. I don't know where Josie is from, but glad you're here, Josie. And Josie had a question, which I believe came in yesterday. Sorry we didn't get to that, but here we are today. And it is a question. Why would a person that is constantly in the Word of God still have ugly, disturbing, evil dreams? I like this question. Now, it's a bit of a psychological question, as well as a spiritual question. And I would say I dabble in, certainly not a professional, but dabble in the psyche, which you might call that psychology. Why does the brain do what it does? I'm convinced the brain does unbelievable things to us that cause us to have experiences that sometimes seem so real we cannot on our own separate them from reality. Influenced by who knows what, so hard to figure out that particular influence that comes in, but are very real. They're not, shall we call it psychotic, in a mental illness sense, though it can do that too, and it can certainly lead to that. Incidentally, let me just say, a little unrelated, and I'll get there, Josie, that I read an article just the other day that sort of goes with my book here. And I, by the way, would encourage this book for Josie or anyone. Hearing the Silence, a critical look at God's silence and claims of divine communication. Now, this is not exactly where the question is today, but nonetheless, it gets into how our minds can fool us. Now, the article I read the other day, I went back to look at it, and I need to dig further in my history to find where that is. It was actually about meditation, Eastern Hinduistic kind of Eastern mysticism meditation. And it was some psychologists saying, hey, the proliferation of meditation, especially in a Hebrew type, in a Hindu type or an Eastern mysticism type way, is creating mental illness. you get out on the internet there and, everybody and their brother is a meditation guide. And this does not, as many fundamentalists say, that just opens your mind up to the demonic. No, not really. What it does is open your mind up to continuing to fool yourself on voices and direction you're hearing that you actually go for it. So now let's get here to the ugly, disturbing, evil dreams. First of all, I would say that this is just a helpful bit of information. For your dream, whether it is ugly, evil, and disturbing, or it is absolutely the most beautiful thing, the most godly thing ever, here's my advice. Ignore it. Utterly, completely, totally, fully ignore it. Forget about it and go on. Because it means nothing. I think I understated that. Your dream means not squat, zilch, zero, nada. The brain has neurons that feed your experiences. They click and tick and tell you your experiences. While we sleep, those neurons play games. They fire, they shoot, they play basketball, whatever it is. Go on in there. I think even, we call it REM, rapid eye movement. It's part of this neuron. It's a thing. I don't know. I will put it forth like this. I don't know that this is an accurate way to do it, but every now and then, on, I don't know, let's say an old car with a carburetor. Okay, I know Josie probably, that's not the way where she is. But I do remember the old cars with carburetors. They don't make them carburetors anymore. Every now and then, you just have to, put it in neutral and put the pedal to the metal and push that stuff out of there. Get a lot of stuff flowing through there to kind of get rid of the gunk and the junk. I kind of wonder if part of our good sleep is that when we're asleep, this rapid eye movement issue is firing on all cylinders in order to clean it out. We heat our house with a wood stove. And I do know that it's very good for the stove from time to time to just load that thing up and let it burn like there's no tomorrow. That will clean it out. So I think this is what's going on in the brain while we're sleeping. Therefore, our dreams they don't tell us anything. They just tell us, hey, my brain works. Well, sure enough, my brain works. And they're filtering it out through there. Now, why would some persons have ugly, disturbing, evil dreams? Others have nice dreams. Others have, whatever. Let's go the whole gamut. Others, scarcely ever even remember a dream. It doesn't matter, because whether you dream every single time you go to sleep or you can't remember the last time you had a dream, it doesn't matter, because they mean nothing. Dreams are worthless. It's the flue in the chimney cleaning itself out. It's the carburetor, the brain, getting rid of that stuff. So don't put any merit to it at all. Now, then you say, okay, I'm in the Word, and I would believe that, constantly in the Word. But I get these ugly dreams, evil dreams. Can we even say that we know that some experience you had or have is what is causing those neurons to fire in that manner and give you that kind of dream? I don't even think we know enough to say, yeah, because you had an ugly, disturbing, evil experience, when you were 14 years old. Therefore, now that's still in there and is still trying to clean that out. Maybe, maybe not. I honestly don't think we know. So I would just say the way, the things that we remember when we wake up, the way these things fire are totally disconnected from anything and everything we are doing. Now, I know that we do have we sort of dream our fears sometimes. I as a pastor used to dream that I show up for a funeral and find out I'm the preacher and I'm not prepared, and oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Who hadn't had a dream of I guess a public speaker anyway, well, maybe anyone. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say too much, but do you ever have dreams that you went to work and forgot your pants? It's like all this, what am I doing? We dream our fears, stupid fears, irrelevant fears. I don't think anybody ever went to work and forgot their pants. I used to dream, I was behind the pulpit and realized I don't have any pants on. What am I going to, I'm going to have to preach here forever until people get mad and leave so I can get out of here. What's going to happen? Okay, what causes these things? No doubt there's some degree of our own fears that cause these things, or our own experiences that cause these things, because typically we can place ourselves in those dreams. We say this is, I was at this place and with these people. And so there's some connection. We just don't know what it is. So because we don't know what it is, there's nothing we can do to change it. The only thing I would say to you is first of all, don't make a spiritual connection with it. It's not the demons. It's not the work of the devil. It's not the absence of the Holy Spirit in your life. It's not that, you haven't paid your full tithes. It's none of that. Totally disconnected. Whatever the connection is, we could never find it. Therefore, we're not going to go on a wild goose chase trying to find it. Don't go down to some therapist and say, I have an evil dream. Well, let's talk about your earliest memory. Forget all that. You're just wasting time and wasting money. So the best thing you can do is just disconnect it, forget it. I'm not, I wish I didn't have this because I'd like to wake up, smelling roses and daisies rather than, seeing lizards and whatever. So you disconnect that from your mind, and that frees you. You disconnect it from your spirituality, and that frees you. You don't have to worry about that anymore, and you don't have to deal with that anymore. Now, let's also say, okay, what can you do to overcome these? First of all, I'll give you the bad news. Maybe nothing. Maybe it's a season in life. Maybe it's time. Maybe this is just the way you're kind of wired, and that you're going to have those, so you'll have to become comfortable with them. And yet, then I would say, see if you can find a pattern on when you have more of these dreams. Is it caffeine related? Is it stress related? I do think there's a lot like, okay, haven't been getting enough sleep. And because I haven't been getting enough sleep, the sleep that I do get is not all that good. Maybe, flip side, because we don't know these things, you have to consider everything. Maybe you're getting too much sleep. Is an overage of sleep or a lack of sleep? Maybe you got a hard mattress and you need to put an extra blanket underneath you. Just try everything to say, what can improve my experience? Do I do better sleeping in a lazy boy or laying on a couch or down in a bed? Do I stay up too late when I have these dreams? So if you can start putting a pattern, maybe, I eat chocolate before I go to bed, and when I don't eat chocolate, because obviously the nutrition can do a lot with what's firing and not firing in your brain there. So that's just some pastoral advice, is check all that out. Now, again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist, any of that. I'm a pastor, and I study the Word of God. And yet, as a pastor for 35 years, I've experienced a lot of people and talked with a lot of people. And so this is sort of a collective old preacher advice there for you on that particular issue, Josie. Thank you very much for that. I think that's an interesting topic. Let's move on to our next topic. Tim in Southern California. Is this the question I lost? Maybe so. Sorry about that, Tim. I apologize. Is the judgment of the nations, Matthew 25, 31 through 46, according to Genesis 12:3? I see no mention of sin, but only how the nations treated Jesus' brethren. So let's go and take a look at this and discuss some of the issues that are involved. Let's go to Matthew chapter 25, verse 31, which speaks of what we often call the judgment of the nations. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, this is the second kingdom, all the holy angels with him, then he shall sit upon the throne of his glory. So the kingdom has now begun. Before him shall be gathered all nations. This probably is the same as the Valley of Jehoshaphat that you get in, is it Zechariah? It's one of the minor prophets. Multitudes in the Valley of Decision. Very likely the same judgment. So he gathers all nations. Here, remember we've said a number of times that this is one of those things that we have to look at, and we have to say, is this all the Jews of the nations? Is this all the peoples of the world? Most people would take it all the peoples of the world. I have a little bit of reason to question that, but nonetheless, let's just go with it here. Whichever way you want to go, he gathers all nations. He shall separate them one from another, as the shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. He shall set the sheep on the right, the goats on the left. Then the king shall say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Now, here's one of the reasons I question whether this is just all the people of the world. You got the Chinese and the Brazilians and the Americans and the Canadians, we're all here, and the Californians. The kingdom is not prepared for the nations, nor do the nations inherit it. So the king shall say to those on his right hand, these are the sheep. Oh, by the way, we should mention that in the Bible, sheep it's a very Jewish term, a very Israel-centric term, not just good versus bad. Could this be an anomaly? Yeah, maybe so, but we'd have to build a pretty good case. I think we'll have to go with Scripture and say, okay, sheep, that sounds like Jews here on the right. And they hear this word, inherit the kingdom prepared for you. Both kingdom and prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Once again, that sounds like Israel. So could you say he gathers all nations together and the judgment ends up being, we've got the Jews over here, we've got the non-Jews over here. Yes, sheep on the right. So we go on. I was hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger, you took me in. I was naked, you clothed me. I was sick, you visited me. I was in prison, you came unto me. Then shall the righteous, here again, it's helpful there. It defines again, these sheep are the righteous. I wonder here in verse 37, if we can, okay, it's a form of decao. Sorry about all that Greek there. I was wondering if it's the word hagios, a form of hagios, which is the saints, but it's not. Dikeo can be used in a much more broad sense. A Jew could be dikeo, a Gentile could be dikeo. The righteous, Lord, when saw we thee and hungered and fed thee, thirsty gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger or naked and clothed thee? When saw we the sick in prison? The king shall answer, verily I say, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. Now this verse 40 is especially where Tim is saying, is this the standard of, say, Genesis 12:3? I will bless them that bless thee, curse them that curse thee, and thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Can you make this connection in so much as you have done it unto the least of these my brethren? So the blessing, didn't get that highlighted, but nonetheless, the blessing comes from, hey, you did it unto Abraham, my brethren, and therefore you're blessed. It's a reasonable conclusion to make, but does it completely fit if we narrow this down to Jews in verse 40, or in the sheep? Then shall he say also to them on the left hand, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. I was hungered and you gave me drink. I was a stranger. We have the same poetic picture here. And when did this happen? Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not unto one of the least of these, you did not do it unto me. Now, that looks to me like it is a judgment, maybe of only Jews. Jews get into the kingdom. Jews do not get into the kingdom. Jews who were faithful to serving the Messiah by doing it unto one of the least of these, they lived out their Judaism, let's say. And then these other Jews that didn't. And that's what you deal with. Now, I think we do have to recognize there are righteous Gentiles that come into the kingdom. Is it right to call them sheep? And is it right to say they inherit the kingdom? And is it right to say the kingdom was prepared for them before the foundation of the world? That's my hiccup on that one. And one of these days, should we add it to our list? We really need to figure out, how do righteous Gentiles get into the millennial age? I am not sure that Matthew 25:31 through 46 is our passage to go to. That's a passage Jesus is a minister of the circumcision, confirming the promises of the Father. Is this just a circumcision word here? This is a Jewish word here? This is a covenant word here? I think we might be able to build a case there and get the righteous Gentiles in another way. So, I would say, if we end up having to say Matthew 25:31 through 46 is a judgment of all nations, and I know at first read it looks that way, but I think we can argue that that is not. If it's for all nations, then yeah, I think the connection to Genesis chapter 12, verse 3 is a good connection. If it's just to the Jews, maybe that's too shallow of a connection. Maybe there's more that we ought to be seeing in there and carrying out then in that way. I hope that that is helpful to you. Tim in Southern California. Appreciate that. I Oh, I'm reading some of the comments here. Stephen said, the more I sin. I didn't know you ever did that, Stephen. The more I sin, the more bad dreams I have. Dreams are, obviously, though I said we don't understand the connection, but dreams are, what shall we say, in some way associated with our experience. We just don't know how to do it. Some people, it carries out that way. Another, back to Josie a little bit. Do you watch scary movies before you go to bed? Or anytime? Is there a fear that maybe you don't voice it, but it's there, that you ought to talk through and face? Maybe so. Are there some things that are hallucinogenic that you're feeding? I'm not talking about, mushrooms or something like that. But there's probably, I don't know, look up for me, Luca. I lost my list here somewhere, so I had to call you Luca. Look up whether or not there are hallucinogenic foods that we might just consume on a daily basis. Again, I'm not talking about going out and finding something hallucinogenic. I'm just talking about, we might just inadvertently be taking something hallucinogenic. Could be there. Are you addicted? You're in the Word all the time, but are you addicted to a charismatic theology? I think charismatic theology feeds this. This is, in charismatic theology, this is what you're supposed to experience, and therefore you're experiencing it, and yet you see it negative, maybe because, in your life you're not, you don't speak in tongues, and therefore it's not, so many thousands of things. And I think that's one of the reasons why I say don't worry about it too much, because if you've got 1,001, that's rhetoric for untold numbers. If you got 1,001 possibilities of what's causing this, it's a needle in a haystack. And you can either go, the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years trying to find that needle in the haystack till you find it and boom, then it's gone. Or you can just say, why would I search for that needle? Because it's a dream. This doesn't matter. I'm just going to learn to live with my dreams and try to maybe mark down some things so that I might stumble on this needle on a haystack. Are there hallucinogenic foods like what?
Nutmeg, poppy seed, caffeine, and chili peppers.
Nutmeg, poppy seed, caffeine, chili peppers. He said that explains Taos. We got a little too much nutmeg, poppy seed. What was the third one? Something and chili peppers. Coffee. Caffeine and chili. Yeah, there's a lot of caffeine and chili pepper going on in Taos. It's hallucinogenic. So yeah, do you take a teaspoon of chili powder before you go to bed? Might do it. From Kansas. When I was younger, I spent most of the summer driving a tractor. I often woke up in the middle of the night dreaming I was driving through the fence. It is a. I was thinking. In fact, I told Luca the other day about one time when I was a young man, about his age actually. I ran into a deer. Boom! Smack! There it was. And I had a lot of dreams after that. I would wake up and a deer was jumping out in front of me. So you got that, I don't know, let's call that post-traumatic stress syndrome. A lot of things going on there, and hopefully you can work through that and find some peace, because it's nice to just sleep through the night. But in the meantime, try to ignore it. Let's go to our friend Jay in Tennessee. Good to see you this morning. And the question is, in 2 Corinthians 5:16, Paul says that we have known Christ in the flesh. And that is exactly what he says, by the way. If I can bring it up. Well, it's First Corinthians. I'm going to get it. 2 Corinthians 5:16. There we go. I got it. Wherefore, henceforth know we no man after the flesh. Yea, though we have known Christ after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more. This is where the question comes from. Now, my question from Jay's question is, when or how did Paul know Christ after the flesh? He didn't follow him during his earthly ministry, and he persecuted the Messianic believers in early Acts. So when or how did Paul know Christ according to the flesh? You're exactly right. As far as we know, Paul and Jesus never met. Now, could you surmise that outside of the road of Damascus, we should say, could you surmise that, well, yeah, anybody would have met Paul? Let's see. This is about, isn't the road to Damascus? I don't have my Schofield Bible in here. I'm going to have to get me one because it has the dates on it. Acts chapter 9. What's Usher's dating for Acts chapter 9? I want to say 44 AD. So yeah, let's call it 8-10 years is the road to Damascus. Now you could surmise that 10 years ago, Saul of Tarsus was still a leader among the Jews, and that he was there in Jerusalem, that he must have met Jesus. And yet, don't we have at the end of chapter, is it 7? Where Stephen is giving his sermon. I'll get to it here eventually. It's a longer chapter than I was expecting. Yeah, in verse 58, 7:58, they laid down their clothes at a young man's feet, whose name was Saul. Okay, so we know he's a young man. In Acts 7, the dating on Acts 9 was...
Usher says 34 AD. Schofield says 37.
Oh, okay, I was a little off on that. So Usher says 34, Schofield says 37. So it's possible if you go, even if you go with the 37 date, it is possible that the reason I was going a later date is because 14 years later when the vision comes. So if you say 34, he's a young man this year, could have been a young man. So you could build a scenario. We just don't know anything about it to build that scenario. So then, to come back to 2 Corinthians 5:16, if we're not going to try to build that scenario, which I don't think we need to, yea, we have known Christ after the flesh. Now, I will say that Thomas Jefferson could have said this. Jay can say it. I can say it. Not in the sense we've known him in the flesh, It's an interesting wording here. We've known him after the flesh. But in the sense that we know born in Bethlehem, temple on the 40th day, raised in, ran off to Egypt for a little while, raised in Nazareth, in the temple at 12, grew in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man, baptized by John the Baptist. All of the things that relate to the physical, fleshly ministry of Jesus, I think is the reference there. So, hey, we could, sorry, I had the camera on the wrong side there. We could, to get back to it, we know all the details of Christ's life, just like Thomas Jefferson did. But Thomas Jefferson never went forward and said, okay, I also want to know Christ in the meaning, the spirit, the supernatural incarnate God become flesh. Thomas Jefferson didn't know him that way, nor did Ben Franklin, for that matter. They knew Christ after the flesh. They recognize Christ after the flesh. They honor Christ after the flesh, but not after the spirit, so to speak. And so now henceforth know we him no more. Again, let's put both of those in yellow there. Let's take this completely literally. We knew him personally, which is the way we want to take that. We knew him personally, but now we don't know him personally. Now we've forgotten him. You see how that second part, you don't take it literally? Henceforth, know we him no more. Wait, yes, you do know him. You're preaching about him. You know him. Okay. We know him not just as the physical being. So I think you could build a pretty decent case to say Saul absolutely believed in Jesus of Nazareth. No doubt about it. Saul did not deny that, he never even lived. You guys it was a bad dream. That's what you had. No, he believed that Jesus, sometimes the academicians call it the historical Jesus, the search for the historical Jesus. In fact, it'll be Easter in another month or so, 6 weeks, 2 months, I don't know. And you'll find, I don't know, Newsweek magazine, Time magazine, whatever. Do those exist anymore? You'll walk up by the counter at the grocery store and you'll see one of those articles, search for the real Jesus or search for the historical Jesus. This is just Christ after the flesh. That's all they're looking for is, hey, where's Christ after the flesh? Nothing in there about what Christ has done, about the offer. It's not going to be a spiritual article at all. So I think this passage in 2 Corinthians 5:16 says we're going beyond the historical Jesus to the work of God in and through Jesus. Goes deeper than this, I think, is the best way to put that, Jay. So Jay goes on, he didn't follow him during his earthly ministry. He persecuted the Messianic believers in Acts. Yeah, so why or when did he know Christ according to the flesh? In his mind. He knew, just like I know, let's go with Teddy Roosevelt today. How's that? Because I've been studying a little on Teddy Roosevelt. I've delayed on Teddy, just like I delayed on Woodrow Wilson, because I'm not really a progressive fan. There's some things I like about Teddy, more so than Woodrow, though Woodrow had one or two good things about him. But do you know I think I like this, and this is Trump-esque, or Trump is Rooseveltish. Do you know that Teddy Roosevelt, this is the free part here, Teddy Roosevelt unilaterally declared that we were going to spell words differently. Bet you didn't know that, did you? I thought this is, I'm going to say Trump-esque because it's easier to say than Rooseveltish. Trump unilaterally declared it's the Gulf of America. Now, we'll see whether it sticks, by the way. Teddy Roosevelt unilaterally declared, we're not going to use British spelling anymore. We're using American spelling. And he insisted that his executive department, anything they put out, had something more American. So we don't have L-A-B-O-U-R, labor. We don't have check, C-H-E-C-K-Q-U-E-L-M-N-O-P-Q-R-S-T, however you Brits do it with all that long stuff in there. We don't have, we have C-H-E-C-K. You know, we simplified, we made it American spelling. He decreed that. I know him in the flesh. By the way, the press also didn't like it then. They said, I wonder how the president is going to spell his name. Will it be R-U-S-V-E-L, whatever, Roosevelt, which makes me wonder if that's the way it was pronounced back then. Or will it be B-U-T-T-I-N-S-K-Y? Butinsky. I think there was a little sarcasm that came. I don't know who that press guy was, but at least he's humorous. I was going to spell his name Butinsky. Sorry, Mr. Butinsky. Okay, so in that sense of knowing in the flesh, yeah, I know the details. I never met Teddy. So, beyond Teddy in the flesh. How's that? Hope that is helpful there. Let's go to Pastor Timothy up in Grand Rapids. I appreciate that. You were discussing the word eon. I'm pronouncing it as we do today, spelled A-E-O-N. You were discussing the word eon, this was yesterday, translated age and eternal. I do and have always believed in eternal punishment for all believers. We're on the same page there. I know there are some who reserve that only for Satan and the fallen angels. How do you explain the word perish, apulomi, in John 3:16 and 1 Corinthians 1:18, which means to destroy fully? Okay, let's, I tell you what, for this, I am going to bring up the Strong's Enhanced Concordance. Let's look first of all at the 1 Corinthians passage. 1 Corinthians 1:18, which says, for the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto them which are saved it is the power of God. Okay, so let's take that word. Same in John 3:16, God so loved the world that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So we're going to take this, I didn't realize I had the evangelical software opened and it was open to the New King James Version. I just realized they, speaking of foolish, they do something. I'm going to pop this out so you can see it. They do something that reminds me one of the reasons I don't like the New King James. Here it is. To our perishing, but to us who are being saved. Now, if we were to talk to the New King James people, whoever it is behind that, I don't remember, we were to go up and say, hey, Jimmy, you made 1 Corinthians 1:18, those of us who are being saved. Same with perishing, those who are perishing. those who are being saved. You made it into a present participle. We are being saved. Aren't we saved? As, let me pull back the King James here. Unto us which are saved. Getting off the eon here, but I'll get back to it. So are we saved? Or, with the King James, are we being saved? Which one is it, Jimmy? I'd like to know. Jimmy would say, well, we just go with the Greek literally. Those, James did not do that. James took that present active participle and changed it into a noun that's a state of fact and indicative. We don't do that. We keep it like it is. Ah, do you? So you're a third grader. I see. Because what they don't tell you there is that in a state of being, which we would take, we would not say, how you doing? I'm living. We would say, I'm alive. Right? In a state of being, in the English language, those are always translated, and understood as well in the Greek, they are always translated to, this is indicative, this is descriptive of who you are. So it is actually very poor Greek translation to say those of us who are being saved and those who are perishing. Only if you don't understand enough Greek would you do that. So, the New King James, you can give for the unknowing, you can give an argument that sounds like, yeah, we did the right thing here, but they did not at all do the right thing. Now, let's first of all go to Strong's Enhanced Lexicon. Here is the word that Pastor Timothy mentioned, pulumi, probably apolumi, from 575, which is apo. It's a preposition from, but sometimes it has some nuance in the way it's used. But from is where you start, and then the base is olethros. Olethros. Olethros, if you see it there in the pop-up, it translates as destruction 4 times. So, ruin, destroy, death, destruction of the flesh, set of external ills and troubles by which the lusts of the flesh are subdued and destroyed. Okay. So, coming from this destruction. Perish 33 times, destroy 26 times, lose 22 times, be lost 5 times, lost 4 times, translated miscellaneous twice. Now, that tells me a little bit here that we don't want to make an etymological fallacy. The etymological fallacy is, hey, this has to do with destruction, annihilation. It might in etymology, but in usage, wouldn't you agree 33 times perish, 26 times destroy? We just take those two right there for the moment. There's a lot between perish and destroy. A lot of leeway in there. This is a word that, based upon its context, has a lot of leeway. And again, I would say, don't make the King Jimmy mistake in oversimplifying it. I used to, when I started out doing this, I used to say, the NASB is much more consistent. It will take a word and it will always translate it that way. Whereas the King James will take a word and, it's 7 times this, 6 times that, 4 times that, and 3 times miscellaneously. But then I got out of the 3rd grade Greek and I realized, wait. Words really do have a broad range of meaning, so you do have to take every single word again in its context. So, in fact, we could take this not only perish and destroy, but also lose 22 times. Now, this is in the King James here. We'll look in a moment and see what New King James does. And it's 22 times lose. What do we? I don't know, but we might look. Is the lost coin one of these? Well, that lost coin is not perished or annihilated. So this is a word which, again, I think if someone stands before you and says, see, this word is to absolutely destroy forever, I think letting Scripture interpret the Scripture will probably tell us, no, wait, it's not, because this was apolumi and it's not destroyed forever. We want to look at that and see. I'm just speculating right now, and see what we can come up with. So let's take first of all and see back to the 1 Corinthians passage. So we're looking at the word perish right here. Let's put that in green. So to them that perish, apolumi, foolishness. It is written, I will destroy, apolumi, different form but same word, the wisdom of the wise, and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Even right there, bring to nothing. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put this in red, and I'm going to put this in red. Virtually every time, we want to consider especially verse 19 here, virtually every time you see a concept repeated in different words, the second one sheds light on the first one. I will destroy the wisdom of the wise. What does that mean? It means I'll bring it to nothing. Wisdom, understanding, destroyed, brought to nothing. Wise, the prudent. This is Hebrew poetry. It's called parallelism, and you see it a lot in the Old Testament, but I think Paul was pretty poetic, and others as well, just this repetitive, it's the way the Hebrew brain worked. So that helps us a little to come to understand, okay, to destroy, you could also substitute the words bring to nothing, which there is not talking about an eternal status there as well. Now, let's check in the New King James. Let's take this particular word and find the way that it is used in the Bible. Again, I am using New King James here just for the sake of our argument. I'm a King James guy, but now they have destroy, perish, ruined. Okay, the wineskins are ruined. There's an excellent. Remember when you let Bible interpret let Scripture interpret the Scripture, you let the easy ones start. And so wineskins are ruined. Do they still exist? No, they're annihilated. No, they're not annihilated. They're right there. They're just broken. They won't hold wine anymore. It's ruined. Okay, so if it can mean ruined in 9:17, can it mean their life is ruined? Yeah. Okay, the lost sheep, same word. Talked about that one yesterday too, didn't we? Are the lost sheep utterly destroyed and they're not out there? Well, then why did he come for them? Fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Now, does this mean the soul and the body is going to be annihilated? Well, I'd say, yeah, in the same way the wineskins are, in the same way the lost sheep are currently there. That is, they're still there. Their purpose is not being fulfilled, will not be fulfilled. It's destroyed, but it's still there. You know, we got our little computer problem. I got it right there. It's still there. It's just a black screen staring at me. So, you know, we could go on here. He who finds his life will lose it. Okay, so his life is going to be annihilated? You just go through here again, lost sheep of the house of Israel. He will destroy those wicked men miserably. A lot of places we would say, okay, if you're using that to make an argument for annihilation, I think that the people who use that just don't tell you the whole story. They don't go and show you all these. Fortunately, you and I have computers now, and we can just say, hey, give me all the times that Apulumai comes up. And it's so easy now for us to do the work. And I would say it's always been fairly easy. You know, I mean, you had the Strong's Enhanced Lexicon, which listed the words every, you know, it's hard to see and you had to have glasses. And it was a big book and it took a lot longer than doing it now. But fortunately, all of us can do it now. So back to the word eon, translated eternal age. I've always believed in eternal punishment for all unbelievers, Pastor Timothy says. I know there are some that reserve that only for Satan and fallen angels. So how do you explain the word perish in John 3:16 and 1 Corinthians 1:18, which means to destroy fully? So I would question whether it means to destroy fully. And I would probably use the wineskins to say those wineskins are fully destroyed, but they're still there. And, you know, take the fully destroyed wineskin. I don't have any on me to use as an illustration. But take fully destroyed wineskins. It's snowing today in Taos. If the wineskins are out there in Taos, it will snow on them. Later on, when the sun comes out, the sun will shine on them. Tonight, when it gets cold, they'll be cold. So they go through the environmental experiences that are in their environment. So if they're out in sunny Southern California, they're not going to get snowed on. Okay, so they're fully destroyed? Well, you know, I suspect if you wanted to, you could even take an old wineskin and make a coaster out of it or something. A dust rag. I don't know what you do with old wineskins. Probably throw them away. So anyway, once again, the way I would describe that is, I think it is, I think it's too simplified. And we preachers, we are bad about this. That we tell you the part we want you to hear. And probably, whether it's me or anyone, remember I always say never trust the government. We ought to, when we hear a preacher, even a bald-headed preacher from Taos, say something, we really ought to be skeptical enough to say, wonder what he's not telling us. I think I'll go look and dig into that and see what's not there. I get this a lot as I spend a little time. I don't post a lot on X. Every now and then I'll give a comment or something, but every now and then I'll sit and look through something. And I will see something, that some liberal typically will put and say, see, you're just reading the thing wrong. And typically what I'll do is if I say, that sounds like a good argument, I wonder if I'm seeing it wrong. I almost always say, I don't think I'm seeing this wrong. What they're saying is right. What are they not telling me? That's what I want to know. I got to quit. But I saw just yesterday, I think it was yesterday, it might have been the day before, a little news clip on a guy down in Orlando, maybe? It was somewhere in Florida, that died for like an hour and a half, and it came on the news. Mr. Jones died for an hour and a half, and now he's alive. And anyway, I heard the story. And afterwards, I said to Shelley, she was there with me, I said, they inflated that thing, didn't they? Because when you heard it, for an hour and a half, he was unconscious. I had to restart his heart a few times. Wasn't dead for an hour and a half. So, when I hear, oh, he's dead for an hour and a half and now he's alive, I don't go, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a resurrection in Florida. I say, somebody's selling me a story. Good clickbait. That'll get him. But the guy was not dead for an hour and a half. Probably not dead for 5 minutes, but anyway. That's the skeptic in me. Thanks for being here. I am out of time. You got questions? I got a full slate open, I think, tomorrow. I got to check the chats here. But I do want to take your questions. You could go to askthetheologian.com. And again, I've got, what I meant is I've got an empty slate. I can take your question tomorrow, Wednesday, the 19th of February. I think tomorrow's the 19th. Be ready for your biblical theological questions, the worldview questions, askthetheologian.com. And lots of stuff, worshify.com or randywhiteministries.org or our YouTube channel. Lots of stuff to check out and go with, and we'll look forward to seeing that. I got some new books on the way. I'll get them out. I'm a little behind, but I'll get them out ASAP so that you can read those. Again, thanks for being here with us. I do appreciate you, and we shall see you tomorrow. Bring a friend tomorrow. That'll be fun, won't it? God bless.